Chosen one, something has been fighting over you. Not in the way that phrase sounds when you first hear it. Not as comfort, not as metaphor, not as something said to soften a hard season. As a fact, you have been at the center of something that no one told you about. A war that has been waged with a precision and a persistence that goes far beyond coincidence, around the very life you have been trying to build. And you have felt it, the resistance that tracks you, the timing of the opposition, the way setbacks arrive exactly when something real is beginning to grow. You have given yourself every rational explanation. Bad timing, wrong decisions, not ready yet. And underneath all of those explanations quietly, there has been a harder question that you have not always let yourself say out loud. What if I am the problem? I am going to answer that question today. Not by dismissing it, but by showing you something about the war around your life that changes everything about the answer. The war over your life is a declaration. And before this is over, I am going to tell you exactly what it is declaring about you. Stay with me. Everything I share here today is completely free. If something in this message connects for you in a way you want to take further, I have left a resource in the description below. No pressure. It is there when you are ready. Before we go any further, I want to tell you what is ahead in this message if you stay through to the end. I am going to show you what the war in your life has actually been saying about who you are. I am going to give you 3 specific things you can begin doing today, from wherever you are, that will change how you read opposition when it arrives. And before this closes, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe you will still be carrying long after today is over. Every part of this is worth your time. Stay with me. There is a particular kind of morning that only certain people know. The room is still dim. The world outside has not woken up yet. And there you are, awake before any alarm, sitting with something heavy that has no name and no obvious cause. You did not choose to be awake. Something would not let you sleep, and so you sit with it, this weight, in the quiet hours before anyone else needs anything from you. That is where I want to start. Not with a promise, not with a declaration, with the honest truth of where you actually are. You have been in a war. I do not mean the ordinary friction of a difficult week or a disappointing season. I mean something more specific and more relentless than that. The kind of resistance that follows you. The kind that arrives at specific junctures and presses against exactly what matters most to you, at exactly the moment it begins to matter most. You have tried to make sense of it. You have offered yourself every reasonable explanation. And underneath all of the explaining, there has been a quieter question, one you have not always been willing to let yourself ask. What if the reason everything keeps pressing against me is because something is wrong with me? I want to address that head on, not to dismiss it, but to reframe the evidence that seems to support it. There are 4 things happening in your life right now, and I want to name them, because when you recognize them for what they actually are, something is going to settle inside you. The first thing, the environments and conversations and patterns that used to feel easy have started to feel draining in a way you cannot fully explain. People you used to be comfortable around, you now find yourself needing distance from. Places you walked into without thinking, you now leave feeling emptied. You might have been calling this sensitivity, or burnout, or some kind of personal failure. What this actually is discernment arriving. Something in you has been recalibrating. And what feels like withdrawal from the world is actually a deepening of your ability to perceive it. The second thing, there are moments when emotion moves through you without any clear reason. A wave of grief in an ordinary afternoon, an unexpected peace followed by an unexplained sadness. Something that feels almost like hope, arriving without logic behind it. You cannot trace any of it to a specific event, and that makes it harder to justify to yourself or explain to anyone else. This is not instability, chosen one. This is your spirit registering the weight of a season it was not designed to carry alone. You are not falling apart. You are processing something at a level most people around you cannot see. The third thing is the knowing. You have been sensing things before they happen, not constantly, but often enough to notice. A feeling before a conversation turns difficult, an awareness of what someone is about to say before they say it, an instinct that arrives before the reasoning does. You might have been calling this anxiety. This is your perception, operating at a depth that the pressure of this season has actually opened in you. Something about what you have been walking through has widened something. And the fourth thing, the opposition in your life has not been arriving at random times. It has been arriving at specific ones. The delay does not come in the middle of a quiet month. It comes the moment something important begins to grow. The fracture does not appear in an ordinary week. It appears when clarity was just beginning to arrive. If the opposition were truly random, the timing would be random. It is not. Every time you tried to move towards something that mattered to you, something pressed against the movement. Every time you stepped in the direction of your calling, the resistance became more concentrated. Every time something real was beginning to take shape in your life, the ground shifted underneath it. You have been reading that as evidence that you are doing something wrong. What if it is evidence that you are doing something exactly right? Here is what most people do when they begin to see this pattern. They accept the war as the cost of being alive. They learn to carry it as background noise, something to survive rather than something to understand. They convince themselves that difficulty is simply the way life works, and the best they can do is endure it with their faith intact. But that is where the story gets cut short. Because the war over your life is not just real, it is targeted. And the fact that it has been so consistent, so precisely timed, tells you something about yourself that the opposition would very much prefer you never understood. Something decided you were worth opposing, and that decision reveals more about who you are than almost anything else ever could. Now, here is where I want to take you. There is a pattern that runs through the lives of the most extraordinary people who have ever walked this earth. It crosses centuries. It crosses cultures. It does not belong to any single tradition or religion. And it is consistent enough that when you look at it honestly, it functions as a principle. The greater the assignment, the more concentrated the opposition, not general difficulty, not the ordinary friction of being alive, targeted, proportional, specific resistance, arriving in direct relation to the magnitude of what was placed inside the person it is aimed at. We were taught the opposite of this. We were taught that if you are truly aligned with your purpose, things open, that peace is the signal of rightness and resistance is the signal of being off course. But the actual record of history tells a completely different story. Consider what happened to David. He was anointed as king while Saul was still on the throne, not in a public ceremony, not in a way anyone around him could see or verify. In a field chosen by a prophet, marked by something that had not yet been revealed to the world. And from that moment forward, the war began. Not because David had done something wrong, not because he was misaligned or unprepared, because what had been placed on him was real enough to be recognized, even by those who wanted to prevent it. Saul hunted David through years of wilderness and caves and close calls, not because David was weak, but because what David carried was undeniable, even to the man who was trying to stop it from becoming visible. Every cave David hid in was a confirmation of his anointing. Every battle he survived without becoming what hunted him was proof of who he was in the process of becoming. The opposition did not disprove David's calling. The opposition announced it. And what announced it was not his success. What announced it was the relentless, targeted, inexplicable persistence of the resistance that followed him everywhere he went. There is an ancient Hebrew word I want to give you. The word is tsara. It is translated throughout the Hebrew scriptures as adversary, as the distress that presses in, as the force that comes against. But when you go to the root of it, something unexpected opens. Tsara does not only mean attack. At its root, it means to bind tightly, to press closely together, the way you would bundle something precious, to keep it safe, to hold it compact, to prevent it from being scattered. The writers who described spiritual opposition in the Hebrew language chose a word that also meant the act of preserving something valuable by pressing it close. What is bound tightly is what is valued. The pressure you have been under has never just been pressure. It has been a form of bundling, something pressing against you because what is inside you is not meant to be scattered. What felt like abandonment was actually assignment. What felt like attack was actually announcement. What felt like being held back was actually being held in reserve for something you are not yet fully aware of. I want to point you towards something before we continue. There is a neuroscientist, a researcher by the name of Dr. Robert Lake, who has spent 34 years studying what happens inside the human brain when it is placed under exactly this kind of sustained opposition, what gets activated, what gets suppressed, and why certain people emerge from the kind of warfare we have been describing, having discovered something in themselves that the opposition never intended to reveal. I am going to come back to what he found, because it connects directly to everything we are talking about. But first, there is still a question that the pattern, and David, and even the ancient language, has not fully answered. Yes, great people face targeted opposition. Yes, the war is proportional to the calling. But why you, specifically? What is it that was placed inside you that made you worth this level of concentrated resistance? What was the war actually over? Before I answer that, I want to pause on Dr. Lake's work for a moment. In a lab in Cambridge, researchers studying the human brain at its peak performing states documented something that most mainstream science had overlooked. They confirmed what Dr. Lake had been tracking across studies conducted at MIT, at Princeton, and at several other leading research institutions. The gamma frequency, the type of brain activity present in full force in children and progressively dimmed in adults, does not disappear. It goes dormant, and dormant things can be reactivated. Dr. Lake spent 3 decades mapping exactly how. He found that through a technology called brain entrainment, through precisely calibrated audio frequencies delivered through headphones, the brain can be brought back into gamma state, not through years of practice, not through expensive clinical equipment. In 7 minutes, what he built from that research is something called the Genius Song. I am going to tell you more about it before this message ends, because what was suppressed in you is not separate from the war we are talking about. They are directly connected. But right now, there is something more important I need to show you about what the war has actually been over. Let me pause here. I want you to notice what has happened in you as you have been listening. You have been sitting with a recognition, a slowly landing truth about the nature of the battle around your life. That kind of thing takes something from you, not in a harmful way, in the way that true things always take something when they finally arrive. So before we go further, just stay where you are for a moment. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, you are not the problem. Let that be enough for right now. What comes next is the part that changes the frame entirely. Not just what the war is, but what the war was over. And the answer to that question is going to require something from you. Here is what I need you to stay for. Before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life, not as someone performing words, as someone who felt genuinely led to carry this specific message to you today. That moment is coming. But right now, I have to show you the most important thing I have said today. You have been thinking of the war in your life as something pointed at you, as an arrow aimed directly at your life, your relationships, your calling, your peace. What I need you to understand is that the war was never pointed at you. It was always pointed over you. And the difference between those two directions is the difference between seeing yourself as the target and understanding yourself as the prize. Who decided you were worth fighting over? And why were they right? I want to say something slowly, because I need you to let it actually land. You have been reading the war in your life as something working against you, something aimed at what you are building, what you are becoming, what you are trying to believe about yourself. That is not what this is. The war over your life is not against you. It has always been over you, and that single shift from against to over changes every interpretation you have ever given to your own story. Think about what a war actually is. Wars are not declared over what has no value. No one wages a precise, sustained, personally targeted campaign against something that does not matter. That level of opposition, that consistency, that specificity is reserved for what is genuinely worth winning. The war surrounding your life has not been trying to destroy you. It has been trying to stop you from discovering something. Specifically, it has been trying to stop you from discovering what you are carrying. Because the moment you understand what is inside you, the war loses its most powerful weapon, which is your own confusion about your worth. Every closed door in your story came because of who you are. Every delay that stretched far longer than made any sense came because of who you are. Every relationship that fractured at the worst possible moment came because of who you are. Every attack that felt targeted, personal, and unrelenting came because of who you are. Think back to David, who spent years in caves and wilderness, hunted by the very man who would eventually have to yield to him. The same king who pursued him could not end what had been placed on his life. The war against David was, at its core, the loudest confirmation his anointing ever received. The opposition could not reach what had been sealed inside him. It could only announce what was there. Your war has been announcing something too. There is a word I want to give you from the ancient Greek of the New Testament. The word is peripoiesis. It appears in the letters of Peter and Paul to describe a specific category of people. People who are kept, preserved, held closely, the way you would hold something that has a purpose not yet fully revealed. Something being guarded with intention until the time for its revealing comes. The people described by this word in the ancient texts are not described as comfortable or untouched. They are described as tested, pressed, those who walked through fire without being consumed by it. And the name given to them in that ancient language is this: preserved. You are not someone the war is trying to erase. Chosen one. You are someone the war has been trying to define. And in trying to define you by pressure, it has instead been proving you. I want to say something here carefully. I hear something being placed on my heart for you in this moment, and I want to offer it to you exactly as it arrives. What is inside you was placed there before the war began. The war that came after it was never given permission to reach what was sealed, and what was placed in you by the force that created you will not be lost. Not by opposition, not by delay, not by any season of your life that looked from the outside like defeat. So now the question shifts. If the war was over you, if you are the prize rather than the casualty, then the next question is not, why was this happening? The question becomes, what is in you that was worth this? And right here is where I want to name something, because most people never get to ask this question clearly. Most people hear the idea that something powerful was placed in them, that the opposition around their life was proportional to their magnitude, and there is a part of them that quietly refuses it. Not dramatically, not loudly, just a small, persistent voice that says, surely not me, surely I am not that significant. Surely this is true for someone, but probably not for me specifically. I need you to know where that voice came from. It was not born with you. You did not arrive with doubt about your own significance as a built-in feature. That voice was learned. It was installed by environments, by relationships, by systems that had everything to gain from keeping you uncertain about what you carry. Your smallness was never a design given to you by the force that created you. It was a design imposed on you by things that could not afford for you to be large. And here is what else I want you to see. The more persistent that doubt has been, the more specific and convincing and difficult to shake, the more it signals the magnitude of what it was working to cover. The unworthiness belief arrived in proportion to the calling. The more significant the assignment, the more persuasive the self-doubt had to become. The intensity of the doubt has always been a map of the territory it was trying to protect. I want to share something with you. There was a man who spent most of his adult life convinced that the battles he faced were punishment for something he could not identify. Every time he moved towards something meaningful, something came against it. People he trusted withdrew at the worst moments. Opportunities collapsed with a timing that felt almost personal. And for years, his interpretation of all of it was simple. There must be something wrong with him. It was not until much later, in a still season, when things had finally gone quiet, that he decided to count. He started counting the people who had, over the course of his life, tried to reduce him, to make him smaller, to keep him from believing in what he carried. And what he found, when he looked at that list honestly, was that every single person who had worked to diminish him had done so from a place of recognizing something they could not access in themselves. Every person who had tried to make him doubt what he was carrying had sensed it before he fully believed it himself. The reduction was not random. It was a response to a presence they could feel even when he could not. The war around your life, chosen one, has always been evidence of the thing others could see in you before you could see it in yourself. What I am about to share in the next few minutes is the most practical part of everything I have said today. It is the part that moves this from a recognition into something you can actually take with you and use. Stay close. So what is it that was placed in you? What was the war actually over? Let me tell you what science has confirmed, because this is not separate from the spiritual. It is a confirmation of it. Every child on this earth is born with a specific type of brain activity. Neuroscientists call it gamma wave function. It is the frequency associated with the experiences most people describe as breakthrough, deep intuition, creative insight, the ability to sense what is beneath the surface of a situation before anyone else can put it into words, the kind of knowing that arrives before the logic does. Children carry this at full strength, and then the world, not through any single act of cruelty, but through the accumulated weight of education systems and survival demands and the constant noise of daily life, begins to suppress it. Researchers have given this a name. They call it the decline effect. By the time most people reach adulthood, what was fully active in them as children has been significantly dimmed. The gamma capacity that was suppressed in you is not gone. It is dormant, and dormant things can be awakened. Here is the practical piece. Because this is not meant to stay as a revelation, it is meant to become something you actually use. There are 3 things you can begin doing from wherever you are right now, whether you are lying down, sitting still, on the move, whatever your situation, that will start to shift how you read the war in your life going forward. The first is simple. Every time opposition arrives, before you respond to it, say this to yourself. This is confirmation, not condemnation. Just those words. Not as a way of pretending the difficulty is not real, but as a deliberate reinterpretation of the signal. You are training your mind to read the battle correctly, rather than through the old lens of punishment. The second is something you can carry with you. At a quiet moment today, trace back to the last time the opposition around you intensified significantly. Ask yourself, what was growing just before that? What decision was I approaching? What door was beginning to open? The timing of the resistance is a map. What you find when you trace it will tell you something specific about where you are going and what you are carrying. And the third, when opposition arrives, the instinct is to react immediately, to defend, to explain, to push back. Before you do any of that, give yourself 60 seconds of stillness. Not silence in the room, stillness in your response. Roots do not react to storms, they deepen into them. You were built for exactly this. You were named before the war began. You were targeted because of what was named, and you were preserved through everything that came after. Before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life, something I believe you are going to carry with you long past today. Stay with me. That moment is coming. Let me take a moment here and say plainly what we have covered today, because I want you to walk away with something clear, not just something felt. The war around your life was real. It was never punishment. It was never evidence that you were doing something wrong. It was proportional to what was placed in you, which means the intensity of what you faced has been, all along, a measure of the significance of what you carry. The unworthiness belief that made that hard to receive was not native to you. It was trained into you by things that needed you to stay uncertain. What was suppressed in you, that God-given frequency, that gamma capacity, the deep intuitive intelligence you carried before the world began to quiet it, that is not gone. It is dormant, and dormant things can be awakened. Take one thing forward from all of this. The war was not wasting you. The war was revealing you, which brings me to what Dr. Robert Lake has spent 34 years building toward. In a lab in Cambridge, researchers studying the human brain at its highest performing states documented something that most mainstream science had overlooked. They confirmed what Dr. Lake had been tracking across studies conducted at MIT, at Princeton, and at several other leading research institutions. The gamma frequency, the one present in full strength in children and progressively dimmed in adults, does not disappear. It goes dormant. And dormant things can be brought back online. The mechanism is called brain entrainment. It uses precisely calibrated audio frequencies to guide the brain into a specific state, the way a tuning fork brings a string into resonance simply by being near it. No effort required, no years of practice, just sound, delivered through headphones, doing what the brain has been waiting for. Dr. Lake spent 3 decades refining the specific frequencies that reactivate what the decline effect suppressed. I want you to hear what this means for the war we have been talking about. The thing that opposition has been pressing against in your life is not just your circumstances, it is your frequency, the God-given gamma capacity. That ability to sense and create and know and recognize was placed in you before the war started. And the suppression of that frequency is part of what the opposition has worked to maintain. The frequency can be restored, and when it is, things begin to shift, not as a feeling alone, in the way synchronicities increase, in the way that what felt blocked begins to move, in the way that the right people, the right timing, the right recognitions begin arriving in ways that feel, and genuinely are, beyond ordinary explanation. I mentioned this to you earlier. Let me bring you back to it now, because it is time to show you what I was pointing toward. A woman named Sarah found her way to this at 38 years old. She had spent her adult life searching, meditation retreats, yoga studios, spiritual communities. She was not a skeptic. She believed deeply that something more was available to her. She had just never been able to get there and stay there consistently. She came to what Dr. Lake built without great expectations, because in her own words, she had nothing left to try. 2 weeks after she started, she wrote one word to describe what had changed: synchronicities. She said the universe had begun speaking in a language she finally understood. Not in visions or dramatic moments, in the quiet alignment of ordinary things, right timing, right encounters. The sense that something larger than her immediate circumstances was organizing itself around her. What Sarah described is what gamma function feels like when it comes home. You may be wondering if this is simply meditation under a different name. It is not. Meditation is the practice of releasing mental activity. Brain entrainment is active frequency calibration, using the physics of sound to bring the brain into gamma state directly. That is why it works even for people like Sarah, who had been meditating for years without reaching what they were looking for. You may also be wondering whether it will actually work for you specifically. More than 18,000 people have used what Dr. Lake created. Less than 4% have requested a refund. That number, 4%, is not a marketing figure. It is a quality signal. In an industry where refund rates regularly run 2 to 4 times higher, less than 4% means that more than 96% of people who listened found something worth keeping. What Dr. Lake compressed from 34 years of research is called the Genius Song, a 7-minute audio track. You listen through headphones. That is all. Let me be honest with you about what it costs, because you deserve to know that before anything else. If you pursued gamma wave recalibration through a biofeedback therapy clinic, you would be looking at approximately $150 per session and multiple sessions before any of it held. A mindfulness app subscription runs around $15 a month, and not one of them targets gamma specifically. A weekend spiritual retreat, the kind that produces effects that last as long as the retreat environment does, costs anywhere from $400 to $800. Dr. Lake's original price for the Genius Song was $49, already a fraction of any of those alternatives. But for the people receiving this specific message today, that price has been reduced to $39, not as a promotion, as a decision by Dr. Lake to reach the people who most need what this does, rather than simply the people who can most easily afford it. And at that price, you receive 4 additional resources at no extra cost. The first is called Genius Child, a 6-minute audio calibrated specifically for a child's brain, designed to reach them before the decline effect takes full hold. That resource on its own is valued at $19. The second is a classic book, the original text that inspired the film The Secret, focused on the practical foundations of financial alignment. $20 of value. The third is a 22-minute guided visualization, taking you through 4 areas of your life: finances, relationships, health, and purpose. $29. And the fourth is a practical infographic mapping the 5 daily habits of people who have maintained their gamma activation long-term after using the Genius Song. $12. Total bonus value, $80, included at no additional cost, with your $39 access. And if within 90 days you feel that nothing has shifted, you receive every dollar back, no conditions, no questions, and every bonus stays with you regardless of your decision. The war we have been discussing today has been pressing against your frequency for longer than it needed to. Every day it remains dormant is another day the opposition's most powerful weapon. Your own uncertainty about what you carry stays in place. The link to access what Dr. Lake built is in the description below and in the pinned comment. What you do with that is entirely yours. But I want you to know it is there. Before you search anywhere else, I want to say something clearly. There are products online that have borrowed language from Dr. Lake's research without the decades of work that produced it. What we have been discussing today is available through one genuine source. The link in the description and the pinned comment will take you directly there. You can also go directly to chosenrise.com/song. That is the only place I am pointing you. The Genius Song. The link is in the description, in the pinned comment, and at chosenrise.com/song when you are ready. Now, let me bring this home. There is something in Dr. Lake's total body of research that points toward more than what we have covered today. A sequence, a fuller picture of what restoration looks like for someone whose frequency has been suppressed. What we have touched today is only the first door. The rest comes when you are ready for it. I want to do something with you right now, not physically, in your mind. Wherever you are, however you are positioned, I want you to hold an image for just a moment. Picture yourself somewhere open and still. And behind you, not gone from your life, but behind you now, is everything you have walked through, every closed door, every season of opposition, every moment where the war pressed against what you were building, all of it behind you. And you are still here, still standing. Not because the battle was small, because you are larger than you knew when it started. Let that image sit with you for a moment. You do not have to do anything with it. Just let your mind hold it. This is not imagination for its own sake. This is your mind beginning to learn a new way to inhabit the truth about who you are. And you are not alone in this. Right now, all across the world, people who have been in the same unnamed battle are arriving at this same moment of recognition. Chosen ones waking up to what the war has been declaring all along. You are part of something larger than this single moment. And what is shifting in you is shifting in others at the same time. Something moved today, not because of any particular word that was said, but because something in you was already prepared to receive what the words were carrying. I want to honor that before we close. The journey you have been on has not been wasted. Not a single day of it. Not a single closed door. Not a single delay. Not a single moment where you sat with the weight, wondering if you would ever understand why. All of it has been bundling something, pressing together what was placed in you so that when the moment of revealing came, it would be held tightly enough to be recognized. Before we finish, I want you to release something, right where you are. You do not need to move. You do not need to say anything out loud. But in the place inside you where you have been holding the old interpretation, the one that said the war was punishment, the story that said you were the problem, let it go. Let it leave the way you read your own history. It was never true, and it does not belong to you anymore. Now receive the frequency that was placed in you before the world had a chance to quiet it. Not as a purchase, not as a tool, but as something that was always yours and is still yours and has been waiting for you all along. You are not the casualty. You are the prize. You are the purpose. And I want to speak something over you now, not as a promise I can make on behalf of heaven, as a word I believe was placed on my heart for you today, and I want to offer it to you exactly as it arrives. I hear this being said over you. What was placed inside you was placed there with intention and with care. The war that came after it was never given permission to reach what was sealed, and what is in you will not be lost. Not by opposition, not by delay, not by any season that looked, from the outside, like defeat. I am chosen. I am worth the war that was fought over me. I am exactly who was placed here, on purpose, for a purpose, with a power that was never fully extinguished. And so it is. If something in this message recognized something true in you today, I want you to do one thing. Type the word chosen in the comments right now, not for anyone watching, as a declaration for yourself. Let that be the first word you speak after what you just received. If this carried something real for you, mark it. Let that small act be a seed planted in this moment. And think of someone right now, someone who has been in an unexplained battle, someone who has been hit from every direction and cannot understand why. Someone who has started to wonder if they are the problem. Share this with them. The war around their life is not random either. They deserve to know what it has been declaring about them. If this is a space where you want truth about who you are to be spoken plainly, and you want more of it, stay close. More is coming.